Imagine a modern pregnant woman at home. Her husband brings water. Her family tells her not to lift heavy things. She stands up from the sofa, and suddenly everyone in the room becomes part of the rescue. One person moves the pillow. One person clears the path. Someone says, "Careful." Someone else says, "Do you need anything?" By night, the husband looks exhausted, and he is not even the pregnant one. And this is the easy version. There is a house, a fridge, a car, clean water, checkups, ultrasound, pain relief, blood transfusion, C-section, and a hospital somewhere nearby if things go wrong. Now remove all of it. No sofa, no fridge, no car, no doctor checking if the baby is in the right position, no regular appointment, no emergency surgery if birth gets stuck, no antibiotics if infection starts, no blood transfusion if bleeding does not stop. Thousands of years ago, pregnancy did not happen inside a comfortable home. It happened inside a survival problem. So, what did ancient women actually go through during pregnancy? The obvious answer is childbirth. And yes, birth was dangerous, but that is not where the story begins. The danger began months earlier, when her body started needing more food, more water, more rest, and more protection, while the world around her did not become any easier. The group still had to move. Food still had to be found. Water still had to be carried. Fire still had to stay alive. Children still had to be watched. And the pregnant woman was still part of that survival system. Today, pregnancy can turn walking from the bedroom to the kitchen into a small mission. That is not weakness. That is biology. A whole human is being built inside another human. The body needs more energy, more blood, more fluids, more minerals, more rest, more balance, more oxygen. Modern life at least tries to make room for that. A pregnant woman can sit down. She can drink clean water. She can eat something from the fridge. She can avoid heavy lifting. She can message her husband for food. She can go to a clinic if something feels wrong. In ancient life, the body still asked for all those, but the world did not always answer. If the berries were gone, they were gone. The river was dirty. That was still the river. The hunt failed. The baby did not pause growing until dinner improved. Pregnancy did not give an ancient woman a break from survival. It made survival heavier. She may still have gathered plants, dug roots, carried water, watched children, prepared food, repaired hides, collected fuel, tended the fire, moved with the group, and helped keep the camp alive. Not because nobody cared about her, because ancient life did not have a pause button. A modern pregnant woman might hear, "Don't carry them." An ancient pregnant woman might hear the same thing, but someone still had to carry the water. That is the difference. Care existed, love existed, family existed, but care did not magically create food. Love could hold her hand. It could not refill an empty river. And this is where the story becomes more interesting than just, there were no hospitals. Pregnancy changed every normal decision. A steep hill was no longer just a hill. A long walk was no longer just a long walk. A cold night was no longer just uncomfortable. A missed meal was no longer only hunger. Fever was no longer only one person being sick. Every small problem now had two bodies inside. Today, if a pregnant woman feels dizzy, someone can bring juice, soup, iron tablets, or take her to a doctor. Thousands of years ago, dizziness could mean many things. Maybe she was hungry, maybe she was dehydrated, maybe she had lost too much strength, maybe she was sick, maybe something was wrong with the pregnancy. There was no blood test, no blood pressure, no ultrasound image, no heart monitor, no due date on a phone. Modern pregnancy comes with appointments. Ancient pregnancy came with guesses. A woman might miss her cycle. She might feel nausea at dawn. Smoke, meat, fish, damp hides, or bitter plants might suddenly make her sick. Her appetite might change. Her belly might grow. Her ankles might swell. The baby might begin to move. That was information, not exact information, not medical information, but lived information. Older women would have known signs. They had seen pregnancies before. They knew what looked normal, what looked worrying, and what had ended badly in the past. This was not modern medicine, but it was not stupidity either. It was memory. Before charts and scans, people survived by remembering patterns. Who bled too much, who became feverish, who needed rest, which food helped, which trail became too hard late in pregnancy, which shelter stayed warmer, which birth position worked better, which helper had calm hands. That kind of knowledge mattered because ancient pregnancy was not just a private condition, it could affect the whole group. Today, if a pregnant woman walks slowly, it is usually annoying. Maybe the elevator is broken. Maybe the parking spot is too far. Maybe everyone waits a little longer. In ancient life, Slow movement could become a survival calculation. A group might need to leave because the water was drying up, or because animals had moved, or because the season was changing, or because insects, waste, smoke, or danger made the camp unsafe, or because another group was nearby. If one pregnant woman was close to birth, the group had a problem. Move too fast, and she might collapse. Move too slowly, and everyone might run out of food. Leave her behind, and the group risks losing a mother, a child, and part of its future. Split the group, and now everyone is less protected. Pregnancy did not just slow one woman down. It could slow down the whole survival. That is something modern viewers often miss. We think of pregnancy as a family event. A bedroom, a clinic, a hospital bag, a due date. For ancient people, pregnancy could affect the map. Where do we sleep tonight? Is there water close enough? Is the ground flat enough? Is the shelter dry? Is there fuel nearby? Is the path too steep? Can she cross that river? Can she climb that slope? Can we stop here for 2 days? Can we afford to? A pregnant woman could change where the whole group slept, not because she was a burden in some simple way, because her survival mattered. She was vulnerable, but she was also carrying the future of the group. That future needed calories, warmth, protection, time, luck. And the land did not care. For a modern pregnant woman, a slippery bathroom floor is already a problem. For an ancient woman, the whole world could become the slippery bathroom floor. Wet stones, mud, tree roots, riverbanks, loose gravel, snow, steep slopes, narrow cave entrances, thorny brush, fallen branches, cold streams, hot sand. None of these needed to look dramatic to be dangerous. A predator in the dark is scary. But sometimes the real danger was one wet stone under one fall. Late in pregnancy could injure the mother. It could trigger bleeding. It could make walking impossible. And if the group had to move, an injury did not stay one person's problem for long. Modern life hides us from terrain. Floors are flat. Stairs have railings. Cars cover distance. Phones call help. Clinic is usually not several ridges away. Ancient terrain was not designed for a pregnant body. Actually, it was not designed for anybody. Pregnancy just made that obvious. Then there was food. Today, pregnancy cravings can become a delivery order. If someone wants soup, fruit, rice, ice cream, pickles, or something weird at midnight, modern life at least gives them a chance. Ancient cravings became a weather report. Wrong season? No chance. Too far away? Too dangerous. Already eaten? Try again next year. But the bigger issue was not cravings. It was nutrition. Pregnancy needs building material. Food is not just fuel during pregnancy. Food becomes blood, placenta, bone, brain, muscle, milk for later. Modern women can take vitamins, iron, calcium, supplements, fortified foods, and get medical advice when something is missing. Ancient women had whatever the land, season, and group could provide. In a good season, there might be gathered greens, roots, tubers, berries, nuts, seeds, eggs, fish, shellfish, honey, marrow, fat, and meat. In a bad season, there might be lean meat, tough roots, old stored grain, pounded seeds, thin soup, or simply less of everything. Hunger was not always dramatic starvation. Sometimes it was smaller portions. Longer walks, less fat, less protein, dirty water, food that took hours to process, and no real choice. The fetus kept growing whether the hunt succeeded or failed. That is the brutal part. Her body could be asking for abundance in a season of shortage. And in early farming communities, the problem changed again. A village could seem safer than a moving camp. There are houses, fields, storage pits, pots, fences, and animals nearby. For a pregnant woman, that sounds like progress. Sometimes it was. But settled life also brought new problems. More people living close together. Waste near water. More infection, more contact with animals. More repetitive work. More grain-heavy diets in some places. More hours grinding food, carrying loads, and bending over feet. Civilization did not instantly make pregnancy easy. It often made life more organized, but not automatically healthier. A modern person might hear farming and imagine safe. For many ancient women, farming could also mean sore backs, worn knees, grain dust, dental problems, infection, and diets that filled the stomach without always feeding the body well. Again, the point is not that every ancient woman lived the same life. Some lived by rivers, some by forests, some on grassland, some in cold regions, some in farming villages, some in mobile bands. But the pattern stays the same. Pregnancy made the body need more. Ancient environments often gave less certainty. Now add sleep. Modern pregnancy can make sleep ridiculous. The back hurts. The hips hurt. The baby kicks. Heartburn appears. The bladder becomes a full-time alarm system. Rolling over becomes an engineering project. But at least there may be a mattress, pillow, a blanket, a bathroom, a fan, a heater, a light switch, a phone. Ancient sleep could mean hard ground, smoke, insects, cold, damp skins, crying children, wind through the shelter, animal sounds outside the firelight, and the constant need to wake if the fire dropped too low. For a modern pregnant woman, bad sleep makes the next day miserable. For an ancient woman, bad sleep could make the next day dangerous. Slower reactions, less strength, more mistakes, less patience, more risk, while walking, carrying, gathering, or crossing rough ground. Even standing up in the third trimester can feel like negotiating with gravity. Ancient gravity was not more polite. And then there was sickness. Today, a fever during pregnancy means concern. People can check temperature, call a doctor, test for infection, give fluids, treat some causes, and monitor the baby. Ancient people had experience, herbs, rest, warmth, water, and care. Sometimes that helped. Sometimes the body recovered. But they did not have antibiotics. They did not know bacteria. They could see dirt, but not microbes. They could know a wound was bad, but not why invisible life inside it was multiple. A small infection could become a large problem. Vomiting could become dehydration. Parasites could drain strength. A cut could fester. Bad water could cause illness. Smoke could irritate breathing. Cold could weaken an already tired body. Pregnancy did not make every sickness fatal, but it reduced the margin for error. That phrase matters. Ancient pregnancy was dangerous because the margin for error was thin. Modern life creates buffers. Medicine is a buffer. Cars are a buffer. Clean water is a buffer. Food storage is a buffer. Emergency surgery is a buffer. Blood banks are a buffer. Antibiotics are a buffer. A family saying lie down, I'll handle it, is also a buffer. Ancient women had fewer buffers. They had skill, memory, community, toughness, adaptation, but far fewer backup systems. And that becomes clearest at birth. Today, birth is still serious. Anyone who says birth is easy has probably never watched someone go through it or is lying for. But modern birth has backup plans. If labor goes too long, people notice. The baby's heart rate drops, people notice. If the baby is badly positioned, people may intervene. If the mother loses blood, there may be medication, fluids, transfusion, surgery. If infection begins, there are antibiotics. If the baby cannot come out safely, there may be a C-section. A C-section is not a small thing. It is major surgery. But in modern medicine, it can turn a deadly situation into a survivable one. Ancient birth often had no such door. If the baby was stuck, everyone knew the problem. But knowing the problem was not the same as being able to fix it. Human childbirth is difficult for a basic reason. Human babies have large heads. Human mothers walk on 2 legs. That combination made birth complicated. Nature really picked a difficult design and called it normal. The baby often has to rotate through a narrow, curved birth canal. The mother may need strength for hours, sometimes for much longer. A baby can come feet first, or sideways, or with the head turned bad. The pelvis may be too narrow. The labor may become obstructed. The mother may become exhausted. Bleeding may start. The placenta may not come out. Seizures may appear from dangerously high blood pressure. The newborn may be born, but not breathe. Modern medicine has names and protocols for many of these crises. Ancient people had hands, experience, firelight, water, positions, pressure, voice, and hope. That is not nothing. Experienced helpers mattered enormously. A woman giving birth alone is at a disadvantage because she cannot easily see what is happening. A helper can support her body, catch the baby, clear the face, bring water, keep the fire going, calm the mother, and notice danger. Ancient women likely used positions that made practical sense. Squatting, kneeling, leaning forward, standing, supported, sitting low, shifting as pain changed. They were not necessarily lying flat on their backs, like in later medical settings. They used gravity, because gravity was free. Finally, one free service in prehistory. Helpers may have prepared clean hides, warm water, plant fibers, a sharp stone, shell edge, or later metal blade to cut the cord. They may have used experience to choose a cleaner spot, fresh bedding, heated water, smoke, ash, or materials that seemed safe. But modern sterility did not exist. No gloves, no disinfected instrument, no operating room, no antibiotics waiting if fever came later. So birth was not only painful, It was uncertain. The scariest part was not just the pain. It was the lack of a backup. Modern birth has a team and equipment. Ancient birth had people, and those people could be brave, skilled, and attentive. But they could not transfuse blood from the fire. They could not perform safe emergency surgery with a stone blade and good intentions. They could not see inside the body. That is why we should not say, ancient women always died in childbirth. That would be wrong. If that were true, humans would have been cancelled in season 1. Most births had to end with survival, because we are here. But every birth carried real risk, and some risks became deadly because there was no modern way around. Heavy bleeding is one example. Today, heavy bleeding after birth starts an emergency protocol. In ancient life, it started a countdown. Helpers might press cloth or hide against the bleeding. They might massage the belly, they might keep the mother warm, they might give water, they might call her name and keep her awake. Sometimes the bleeding stopped, sometimes it did not. There was no blood bank behind the shelter. Infection was another danger. A baby could be born. The first cry could come. Everyone could feel relief. And then, days later, the mother could develop fever. Without antibiotics, the body either fought or failed. People could offer warmth, fluids, herbs, touch, prayers, songs, and care. Some mothers survived, some did not. That is what no hospital actually means. Not just no building, no backup systems. When the body crossed a line, it could not cross back. And even if birth went well, the story was not over. Today, after birth, the mother is supposed to recover. In real life, modern recovery is still rough. There is pain, bleeding, exhaustion, breastfeeding problems, hormones, no sleep. A tiny baby making tiny dictator demands every 2 hours. But at least there may be a bed, warm food, clean water, towels, medicine, stitches, blankets, formula if needed, breast pumps, doctors, family help. Ancient recovery could begin on cold ground beside a weak fire. The mother might be bleeding, sore, shaking, hungry, thirsty, feverish, or too weak to walk far. And the baby did not care that she needed rest. A newborn needs warmth immediately. Milk, skin, protection, clean, handle, a body to breathe against, someone awake enough to notice if something is wrong. Birth was not a finish line. It was the start of a new survival schedule. Modern parents complain about newborn sleep. And honestly, they are right. Newborn sleep can make adults look like haunted furniture. But ancient parents had that same exhaustion without a safe bedroom, a washing machine, packaged diapers, clean bottles, formula, a pediatrician, or a thermostat. A newborn added joy, yes. But it also added heat needs, noise, smell, waste, interrupted sleep, more fire tending, more carrying, more vulnerability, one more fragile body. The group had to keep alive. Breastfeeding was one of humanity's great survival technologies. It gave food, fluid, warmth, immune protection, and comfort in one act. In many ancient settings, breast milk may have been the safest food and drink a baby could get. But breastfeeding also demands energy from the mother. And that mother had just built a child from her own body. If she was underfed, sick, stressed, or recovering from heavy bleeding, milk could become hard. If she died, the crisis spread to the baby immediately. Another lactating woman might help. Shared care could save lives. This is where community matters most. Ancient pregnancy was not survived by the mother alone. It was survived by the people around her. Someone had to bring water. Someone had to keep the fire alive. Someone had to prepare soft food. Someone had to watch older children. Someone had to gather fuel. Someone had to guard the shelter. Someone had to help during labor. Someone had to notice if fever or bleeding worsened. Someone had to decide when the group could move again. Before hospitals, people were the safety system. Not a perfect system, not a magical one, but a real. And this is the part that stops the story from becoming only tragic. Ancient women were not simply victims of pregnancy. They were skilled survivors inside a hard system. They knew plants, routes, seasons, children, fire, food, weather. Pain, birth, recovery, loss. Older women carried memory that no bone can preserve. They remembered who needed rest, which paths were easier, which shelters held heat, which foods seemed to strengthen a mother, which signs meant danger, which births had gone wrong before. That knowledge was not written in books. It was carried in people. Care became a kind of technology. A hand carrying water, a grandmother watching the first child, a partner feeding the fire at night, a sister sharing food, a group choosing a safer shelter, a helper staying awake through a long labor. These things sound small today because we compare them to hospitals, but in ancient life, they could be the difference between another death and another morning. So what did ancient women go through during pregnancy? Not just pain, not just hunger, not just child. They went through a complete change in survival. Their bodies needed more while the world often gave less. Their movement slowed while the group still had to move. Their food needs grew while seasons stayed uncertain. Their sleep broke while work continued. Their risk increased while backup plans were few. Their birth could become dangerous with very little warning. And after birth, the work began again now with a newborn who could not survive without constant care. Modern pregnancy can be exhausting, even with a husband bringing water, a family checking in, food nearby, regular appointments, and a hospital ready. Ancient pregnancy happened without most of those cushions. That does not mean ancient women were helped. It means their survival depended on something older than medicine. The body's endurance, the group's memory, shared food, firelight, care, and luck. For ancient women, pregnancy was not a pause from survival. It was survival with a second heartbeat inside. And before hospitals, before scans, before emergency surgery, that second heartbeat was protected by the oldest human tool we have, each other.